there's always discrepancies between like billing and accounting data between things like Salesforce and NetSuite, but there are organizations today that are centralizing all of their finance and accounting data in a cloud data warehouse, and that becomes the source of truth for what happens in an ERP as well. So we're starting to see it happen. It's just a little slow moving because it's a big change.
Welcome to What Gets Measured, a Ninja Cat podcast about marketing, performance management, metrics, and effectiveness. Because what gets measured gets managed. I'm your host, Jake Sanders. Deven Ravel is a revenue-focused partnerships professional with SaaS ecosystem experience in low-code integration, customer data, and enterprise MarTech. Prior to entering the SaaS space, Deven scaled business development and sales for a variety of different clients. He also served as a United States Marine Corps infantry officer leading humanitarian and combat operations in Afghanistan, and he's here today to help us unpack the world's data warehousing. Deven, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jacob. Happy to be here.
Well, I'm glad you could join us and unlock the warehouse and let us wander through your expertise. But it might be a good time to just start with a definition of data warehouses. So what are they? How do you see this term misdefined or defined appropriately? Just give us a brief intro to data warehouses.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's probably some, unless you're a data professional, there's probably some confusion between a warehouse and a database and a data lake. And I think to keep it really simple, a data warehouse is a relational database that's really meant for analytical rather than transactional type of work. So it's a place where your data goes, where it's modeled correctly, and you're really using that data to get insights versus just a dumping ground or a storage place for that data.
Right. Well, that was easy. It's the shortest episode we've ever had. No. But you're right. It's like a couple, 5 years ago or something, where everybody was big data.
Yep.
And then there was these terms: data lake, database, data warehouse, pipelines, all of these things. And do you think people haven't caught up to the new tech? I mean, like you said, unless you're a data professional, you might have some confusion. Why do you think there is this confusion?
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with industry vertical and who are the market leaders versus the market laggards. And when I say laggards, I think there are perceptions in certain industries. I think if you look at manufacturing, historically financial services, heavily regulated industries, I think have been slower to adopt cloud technologies. And if you look at the world of on-prem databases, they've been stuck on those databases for a long time. And for a while, there was this perception that cloud data was maybe not as secure.
Mhm.
And I think depending on what industry you come from or what organizations you've been a part of, maybe some organizations don't have the need for massive amounts of data. So if you're
Right.
not in that space, you're just not aware. So I think it's just an awareness thing, and the market's really catching up. And I think the playing field is definitely evening out.
Yeah. We're all evaporating into the cloud, um, but happily. So let's. This is precipitating some condensation in my brain. Um, Thinking about just data management in general,
Mhm.
speaking about some of your clients and stuff, what do you see those challenges and limitations that agencies are facing when it comes to data management, and how do you think they can overcome them?
Yeah, I think especially in the martech and ad tech space, historically, data management has been this siloed area, right? You've had enterprise data that usually sits within a data team or IT,
Right.
and they might have had a historical database for that. Marketers, ad professionals, and agencies typically don't want to be beholden to whatever the IT or data team is using. So over the last 5 to 10 years, you've seen this proliferation of other data solutions specific for marketing and advertising work. And I think that's where you've seen this whole category of CDPs or customer data platforms come up.
Right.
And it's created a lot of duplicative data across an organization. I think that's a struggle for agencies now. We work a lot with both small boutique agencies, and then we have some huge agency partners as well, like Dentsu Merkle and Deloitte Digital.
Oh, wow.
And the common theme that we're seeing, both, when we look at like Fortune 100 companies all the way down to mid-market and even SMB type shops, is this data discrepancy. Agencies don't know where they need to go to pull the most accurate data and the most secure data and stay within compliance for things like GDPR. And it's just a data mess in a lot of organizations right now because of the lack of centralization.
Huge, huge. I mean, and so centralization too, it seems like there's this push for centralization and getting things in one place, singing from one song sheet, but then also this push for democratization. Everyone should
Yes.
have data. And I could see how those two things are like like Kevin Bacon in Footloose playing chicken. And
Yes.
somebody's got to jump off. I mean, do you see that maybe this centralization and ownership also conflicts with the idea of democratization?
I think there's a perception that it could,
Hmm.
but once you understand I guess the future of centralization, you'll understand that it actually supports democratization of that data in a better way. And I don't think we have time to get into the weeds around data governance and observability today, but modern cloud data warehouses like the Snowflakes, the BigQueries, the Databricks, and the Redshifts of the world allow organizations to centralize the data, a final approved storage for that data, but allowing certain levels of governance and access controls for lines of business to access that data whenever they need, however they need, in a secure way.
Yeah.
So if a data warehouse is set up the right way, it will actually support democratization of that data across lines of business and across agencies. Whoever needs that data is going to have access to that data.
And so just let's start thinking about maybe some of the tech. I mean, you're deep in the stack. You're deep in the Franken stack is what we call
That's
it at,
right.
At Ninja Cat. It's like you have this for this service, you have this for this task, you have this for this data, you have your CRM, you have all these things and they're stacked up. Um, do you think the Franken stack is inescapable? Do you think like the idea that there's just one platform to rule them all is a little short-sighted?
That's a great question. I think the space is evolving. So I think the Frankenstack might be inescapable for certain industries
Mm,
that just require that amount of tooling. Um,
right.
but in general, I think where we're at in our space, we like to believe that composability will start to uh, decrease this Frankenstack. And composability is the idea that all enterprise data, consumer data is going to live in a very secure place. It's centralized, it's well governed, and then there will be this, series of tooling built around that data stack that will allow access to that data and the pipelines to support it as well, right? So if you need data in a CRM, do you store the data in a CRM or do you store it elsewhere and just have the CRM access it? We're even seeing
Right.
it in the ERP space as well with like,
Mm,
tools like NetSuite, right? So there's always discrepancies between like billing and accounting data between things like Salesforce and NetSuite, but there are organizations today that are centralizing all of their finance and accounting data in a cloud data warehouse, and that becomes the source of truth for what happens in an ERP as well. So we're starting to see it happen. It's just a little slow moving because it's a big change.
So, and you're saying it's slow moving, there's big changes. Some people who have been in this space have kept up with it, but depending on your vertical, like if you're dealing with complex stuff, like you said, financial services, you're probably slower to adopt to these things. But if you could shake your crystal ball and
Yep.
look into the future, like if we're seeing like, 5 years into the future, how do you see the role of data management and warehousing and all of this stuff evolving in the marketing and advertising industry?
Yeah, I think data management and the role of data teams, whether that's data science and data engineering, are going to become meshed or interconnected with marketing and advertising. And we're actually in the process of having some conversations with a very large bank here in North America
Mhm.
who have been slow to adopt this cloud data management and this cloud data warehouse approach.
Right.
And what's super, super interesting is that the increased demand for this transformation is coming from that organization's marketing team.
Hmm.
That marketing team needs to be able to activate data. They need to be able to do hyper personalized campaigns. They want to be able to stay within the boundaries of compliance for those campaigns. And the only way that they can do that is if they are using data that's coming from that enterprise source of truth. And it's a
Mhm.
really interesting phenomena because typically it was, a data team or a data science team that said, well, we have all of this data. We might as well create a pipeline for marketing and advertising. We're starting to see the reverse happen where marketers and advertisers are saying, I need more timely data. I need a pipeline that allows me to access that data in a secure way.
Yeah.
And I can't be the only one to own it. I need that partnership with the data team and the IT team to be able to do that. So it's happening. I think we're starting to, like, my spidey sense is that we're on the cusp of something that's going to be completely transformational across all industries.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel the tingles. I feel the tingles.
Yes.
Now let's just get into analytics really quick because as you
Sure.
said, data warehousing is the place where you're doing a lot of that analysis. How do you measure the value of the data that you're
Yeah.
working with?
Yeah. Phenomenal question. And we have a couple examples of high touch customers that specifically talk about their investment in a cloud data warehouse changing from being a cost center to a revenue center. When you
Woo.
think, right, it's kind of mind blowing.
Wait,
So
wait, 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 wait. I'm rewinding
when
the
you think,
podcast. Okay, say that
yeah,
again.
when you think of a big data investment in the analytics, right? Like that's step one. Normal, get your data into a cloud data warehouse. You normalize it. You create your models. Then the next thing, you want to start doing some really advanced reporting using all these amazing BI tools out there, and that output in itself is very powerful, right? It's
Right.
telling a story about your business. It's telling a story about your consumers, and at High Touch, we believe, why stop there? If you're using these data models to tell the story, why don't you use these data models to now power the actions and activities happening downstream? And I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
We have a very large media customer today that made a big cloud data warehouse investment. They are doing a lot of analytics from that data warehouse,
Mm.
but the same models that they're using for those analytics are informing how they run ad campaigns. And when they
Mm.
they do the analytics and look at things like, what is our high lifetime value cohort of customers? What are our high churn risk types of customers? Those models exist, and they're then using those models, leveraging high touch to create audiences and feed those audiences into things like Facebook ads and Snapchat and TikTok and email marketing campaigns. And what they've seen in a very short period is increased match rates and increased conversion, which translates to increased top line revenue. And their cycle to do that is astronomically faster than before, where they would have to go to a data team and ask for CSV exports. And by the time the data they need, it's latent or behind, and they were always a few steps behind, right? And these modern pipelines today allow marketers and advertisers to take action on data and really make the most use of the analytics work that's happening on the data side.
And what do you think? What are some like horror like let's get into some stories. Like
Yeah,
think about you have all this data and sure it's at your fingertips and you can fire it off. But like can you trust it or is it accurate? I mean,
yeah,
is the main horror story around data just data quality? Like if it's quality, then it's all good and you can do whatever you want and leverage all these things and create better performing campaigns and turn it into a revenue center. But if the data's bad, like you won't find out for a little bit that it's bad.
yeah,
I mean, like, is there a
yeah,
little bit of latency, even though you have real time data, you could still make a bad call because the data's bad, and then you won't know, and so the latency will happen regardless. Like, do you see where
yeah,
I'm coming from? Okay.
yeah. And I think that any SaaS or cloud company that claims that their product is going to be the magic wand and solve this is lying, because nothing out there will solve business process governance around good data. And that's why at High Touch, we do have a product that can be implemented very quickly. We have a high degree of data observability and accuracy. We have the mechanisms in place to report on data quality issues. But for larger customers that have complex data, or they're in highly regulated spaces like healthcare, financial services, we recommend that they take a transformation approach to this type of, before you start shooting your data all over the place, thinking that it's going to create conversions.
Right.
Let's take a closer look at the quality of the data that you have today. And obviously, I'm biased because I'm on the channel and partnership side of things. We love to bring in our agency and consulting partners to take a closer look at the data maturity within that organization before they hit the go button,
Right.
to really make sure that they have the mechanisms in place to be able to leverage that data. So yes, data quality is a problem. What we find to be a bigger issue is not the data quality, but the data accessibility. And I'll give you another story. This started out as a horror story and then turned into something very positive.
Oh, I like that.
We have a very big retail customer in sort of like the pet business.
Okay.
And they made investments in a cloud data warehouse. They started to pull in all this consumer data there. They were running the analytics off of it, but their data activation for media and campaigns were happening out of a legacy CDP, a legacy customer data platform. And they had a data point that showed that if they could activate campaigns based on your pet's birthday, they were going to have high conversion. But their legacy CDP, the data schema and the models only looked at things like consumer name, address, right? The basic schema. It did not get into this hierarchy of who are your pets? What are your pets' birthdays? What are your pets' breeds? Are they all in the same household, right? So they had this machine to be able to activate these campaigns, but they couldn't activate on one thing that mattered the most.
Wow.
So they were able to completely just, we got them ripped off of that legacy CDP, saved them millions of dollars in the long run, and they were now able to activate off of that exact data point that was just already in their data warehouse. So increased conversion while reducing bottom line, right? So it would have been a horror story if we couldn't solve for it. But that's where we're going, right?
Well, it's cool is that they knew what they were looking for. Most people don't know what they're looking for. They're just like, well, there's a whole bunch of haystack of data. Let's go get that needle. And you're like, please define the needle before you go in. Tell me what hay is. Tell me what a needle looks like. But you bring up something interesting, and I know there are so many people with legacy systems that they're working with. How do you get off of those older things? How did you kind of cauterize that, or like, because I know there's a lot of people that have something that a prior person in their role got. They don't know why they have it. It might work. It does some things. And so like, how do you get people off of those, like identifying these like zombie data management platforms, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think this case, the cauterization that happened was a result of that organization being forward leaning and having a vision for moving to this composable model.
Right.
I would say that's a rarity, and that's not something we bank on. And what we're learning as we work with customers like this, we don't expect a customer to just turn the lights off something like a legacy CDP and flip the switch over to composable. So we are guiding them, saying if your CDP has been in place, and I'm using CDP as the example because that's that's the world that we're living in here at High Touch. But if your CDP has been there for a long time, you're activating a lot of media out of that CDP. Don't plan to just shut the lights off immediately. There is a gradual way to do this, right? So let's say you're making, and we get this objection a lot where we say our data is not ready in our data warehouse to go to this composable model. We don't have everything in there. And we say, that's fine. As long as you are starting to bring in some element of we start with first party data, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you're not doing all your identity resolution and third party and second party data matching, but you have some degree of first party data that's in your data warehouse.
Mhm.
Let's start small. Maybe we start just sending that first party data to your email marketing solution, leveraging our reverse ETL, and it's not a full blown CDP capability yet. Typically, when they start experimenting with that approach, it gives them ideas on what type of data to bring into their data warehouse and start activating next. So it's definitely a journey. And we really want customers to know that when we talk about these composable approaches to data and composable CDP, we're not just saying, hey, we're going to rip you off your CDP and throw you into this, because it is a big transformation. It is a
Huge,
journey.
yeah, yeah.
And there's a way to do a parallel path, right? If you want to transition off of your legacy CDP and into the composable approach, that could be a 6-month process, that can be an 18-month process, but there is a starting point on day one, right?
Right.
It could be something as simple as that email marketing use case.
Right. That's but it's good to hear that regardless of all the technological capabilities we have, the tools, the stacks, all those things, you really have to have a clear idea of what you want to see, how you work with people, what your clients are, it's like it's kind of like knowledge of self before you
Yes.
get into this, like, I'm about to just outsource all my knowledge. And that brings me up to something that I didn't put on here, but I'm wondering if
Yeah.
you would rap about it, is AI automation. Like, I can just automate all this stuff. And, I mean, in the future, I'm seeing certain new large language models that are like, just write what you want and I'll give you a data visualization. Like,
Yep.
tell me what you want. Like, do you see AI as a benefit? Do you see the same problems that are existing right now for data warehousing and, data management? Like, it's not gonna be made better with AI, it's just gonna get worse faster, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think speaking broadly about AI and automation in general, I think there are two things that need to be in place before those types of tools are really going to help. One, to your point earlier, a clear vision of what you want, right? And this is, going rewinding and throwing my consulting hat on.
Right,
This is just establishing business outcomes, right? As a marketing team or as an agency, what is the number one thing that I'm trying to drive for my business or for my client, right? Is it increased conversion through a specific channel? Is it minimizing ad spend in a specific channel, right? So
right,
identifying what is it that I want to do, what tools do I have available to do that, and what data do I have that's going to support that. And then the second thing, once you've established that goal, is examining the quality of that data. Is my data at a point where an AI tool can actually leverage everything in that data to make the right decisions and give me the right insights? I think it's a journey.
oh, it's a total journey, but you're just like, we just wanna skip ahead. It's just almost like playing a game of Monopoly and just throwing your piece across the
Yeah.
room and being like, "I'm in the next time zone, bro." And you're like, "No, you
Yep.
have to play the game first. Play the
Yes.
game first. Know what you want. Get your KPIs together. Figure out what you wanna do, what you want to see, and then figure out if your data can make it happen. And is it clean enough for AI to be like, "Yeah, I can bubble up these insights real fast." But there's gonna be so many people bubbling up bad stuff. Are you kinda concerned about that? Like, data quality is an issue right now, kids. Like,
Yeah. I think there's two flavors to it. One are the organizations. Well, there's three flavors. I'll start with the first one because it's rare.
there's
Organizations
31 flavors, Devin.
that
Okay, start with
that's
one of
right.
them.
That's right. We'll narrow it down, but I think some organizations have started this data journey early on. They
Right,
understand the quality of their data. They understand the tooling and capabilities they need. That's rare. I think the second category are, and what we're seeing more, are organizations that know they need to be on this journey, but they're realizing that the data quality is a mess. They're under resourced, especially in today's
right.
economic climate.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like a paralysis where they're like, we know we need to do this. We don't know where to start. We don't have the resources. And then the third one are organizations that are blissfully ignorant, right? They think that they're just going to spend money on certain tools that's going to be the silver bullet, and they are not understanding what it takes to actually do this right. And I think they're going to have some hard lessons later on. So we actually prefer to work with the customers that are almost a little paralyzed and say, "Hey, we don't even know where to start," because that's where we can
Yeah.
help them, right? We can help them start small. We can bring in our agency partners to guide them along this journey, and take baby steps to a point where they start understanding what's available to them. Small wins kind of open people's eyes up a little bit into the art of the possible.
Ah, that's so beautiful, and I think we have it a little backwards with automation, is you're just saying it's just gonna take all those small wins and condense the time frame, and you're like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, it can, but you really have to have a handle on your processes, on the people, on the potential, and then also your goals. Like, just set them out before you get involved, before you get lost in the warehouse like Raiders of the Lost Ark. Um, so, so you have given us so much to think about. But if you could, and just imagine that you're in a train station and there's a marketer over there that's visibly crying and they're sad about their data management. They have
yeah.
concerns about data warehousing. If you could just give them like, oh, by the way, here's a one piece of advice for that marketer, what would you tell them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would probably first ask, like, why is it that they're crying? Is it, are they trying to run
Quit being
campaigns and
nice,
not
Devin.
doing right?
Quit being nice. You're trying to be nice.
I
Are
have
you
I have a lot of
sad?
empathy toward marketers, so I
I
understand
know.
the pains that they live through on
And
a
don't
daily
they
basis.
need, I mean, because I saw the Hallmark gift card, greeting cards. There's moms, dads, marketers.
Right?
We all know sympathy, thinking of you during this difficult time.
Yes, yes.
So anyway, you'd ask them why they're crying.
Yeah, and I think I'd wanna understand, like, are you having trouble understanding your match rates when you send your audiences into your paid ad platforms? Because that means you're just hemorrhaging ad spend right now, and
Yes.
CMO or somebody's probably on your case, like, what are we getting for all this, right? So that's one reason. Another thing is, like, you're doing email blasts, and there's just bad data in the lists that you're sending these emails to, right? Is that an issue? So understanding, like, where are you getting your data today, right? Is the data you're working with today working for you? And if not, do you know where in your organization you might be able to get better data? Because there is a really good chance that somebody on a data team or within the IT organization has a plethora of consumer data that you might not be aware of. Do you even know who that person is? Because maybe we can just have a conversation and help build some bridges and figure out, is there a better way to get better data? That's pretty much like the first step.
Quote bomb.
Oh my God, I'm writing this down. And I had a guest a couple shows ago, and they said they worked with somebody and they got their data together and got good profiles for the customers and clients and stuff, and but the it was a surprise that the PR department was the one that was like really like, oh my gosh, like they were bubbling up all these interesting stories and like about transactions and histories and use cases, and my guest was like, it was kind of surprising, like you
Yeah.
don't know all that data. Like, if you don't know where it is, that's bad. But you don't know how powerful it could be to
Yes.
sales folks, marketing folks, the higher ups, the lower downs. I mean, like, there is such a gold mine in there, and I could see why people are really, let's go, let's go, let's go. But slow down. Like, how can you find that data? And is there a better way to get it? And I think if you wanted to, you could reach out to Devin and talk to him about it. If people want to learn more about you and connect online, Devin, how can they do that?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, or
Yes.
just shoot me an email. It's Deven, Deven at hightouch.io. I'd be happy to chat.
Cheese or chocolate?
Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Cheese or chocolate?
Cheese.
Okay. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars for sure.
Okay, whoa. Make it so. um, nice hotel or camping in the wild?
Camping in the wild, definitely.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
do you have a good data set? You have a good experience there?
Yes. So I live about 2 hours from the Appalachian Mountains here in Charlotte,
Cool.
North Carolina, and
Nice.
being stuck behind a screen for days on end, sometimes you just need to turn off and just sit amongst the trees, and it's beautiful.
Absolutely. Yep. The data don't lie. Um, I don't know why I wrote this. Roomba or Dyson?
Oh man,
Oh,
that's a tough
I
one.
thought the Star Wars Star Trek would be tough, but this one is
Uh,
slowing Devin down, folks.
so I'm gonna go with Roomba. That's in a funny way. That's automation. I have a lot of funny stories. We have one here, and
Okay.
it's done all sorts of like bad things. You wake up in the morning and it's like stuck somewhere or it's eaten something. And so again, cautionary tale on automation, but I'm still gonna go with that answer.
So, just a little bit more. Why the Roomba? You just like it? It's just like it's just doing its thing.
Yeah, we have 2 dogs and
Oh yeah.
yeah, so it's like cleaning up hair and stuff like that. Like it's just easy, just wake up in the morning and the floor's clean.
I love it. That's so cool. So you trust the robots. I like that. Wow, I'm really going hard on this one. This next one.
All right.
Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
I hate to say it, but he's right. Oh, okay. And then finally, Chat GPT or chat with a friend over a G&T?
Chat with a friend over a G&T, definitely,
It's just
definitely.
it's just better. You don't have to keep pushing regenerate response on them.
Oh. Well, some people you might
Some
need to.
people you do. You're like, "Oh, I didn't
They
like
need they
that."
need that's, you just give them another G&T and that might do it.
The original prompt engineer, Jin.
That's right.
What Gets Measured is a Ninja Cat podcast. Please rate and review the show wherever you find your podcasts. Share this episode on social and visit us on the web at ninjacat.io.